Hi, welcome to the Autoimmune Experience. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Shivani. I'm an autoimmune warrior as well as a board certified cosmetologist and makeup artist, and I create beauty content here on YouTube. And today we're going over the new Patrick Ta Blush and Highlighter Duo Palette. If that sounds like something you're interested in, just keep watching. Now let's get right into it. This is the new palette right here. It is in a matte rose gold packaging. This is the back of the palette. And the packaging has the original outer packaging is the same, and the back has the directions and some information. This, compared to last year's palette, looks a lot lighter in pigmentation. So this is the palette itself, and it has a substantial mirror. And if you look at last year's palette, this is the packaging. It was rose gold and shiny, and inside was a lot more pigmented. And I didn't tend to use last year's palette much. I only used this shade right here. Otherwise, these two shades I stayed out of. So I will give you swatches of all of it. This is a limited edition face palette, the new one, and it's featuring 2 new cream and powder blush shades and a debut of a new highlighter duo, okay? So let's go ahead and swatch this palette. Here is this year's palette. We have the soft pink, which is giving flirty, and then we have the sun-kissed golden peach. So it's giving sun-kissed, which is a golden peach. And then we have the glossy shade. It's just pure gloss, and it's giving glossy. It's transparent gloss and an opal pearlescent highlighter at the bottom, if you can see it. Let me put it closer to you. So it's just a clear gloss, the creamy shade for the highlighter. The creams are quite emollient, I can see, and I can see a little bit of fine micro glitters in the creams. You can't really notice it on the face or on the hand, I believe, but you can see it if you're looking at the palette, if you're really paying attention. And the highlighter does have a little bit of a sparkle in there. There is definitely some shimmer to it. Yeah. So if you don't like micro glitter pieces in your highlighter already, I'm going to tell you stay away from that. So let me go ahead and swatch the last year's palette so you can see the difference. Here's last year's palette. As you can see, here's the pink one, the coral one, and the brown one, the more berry toned one. And you can see how much more pigmented last year's palette was. I mean, I have a deeper complexion, and it was too much for me. So I definitely am looking more forward to this year's. All right, let's get into application. So we're gonna start off with the first color. And we're gonna start off with the powder first because he recommends putting the powder on and then going over with the cream top. So you guys are zoomed in completely, and we're gonna go ahead and start off with the soft pink blush right here in this, and we're gonna go ahead and put it on with a rougher number 4 brush I'm using, okay? And a lot comes off, so tap off, a lot of pigment comes off. So tap off and go in lightly. Okay, that's very pretty. Not too deep, right when you start off. Go in again, tap off. I do have powder on underneath. I have a little bit of concealer and I powdered the top, so my face is powdered right now. There we go. I'm gonna build up a little more, just so you guys can see how much it builds up. It does build up. You can keep going, so it does build up. This will work for deeper complexions. Because I can keep building, and I can keep building. We're gonna stop right there for now, because I'm starting to look like a clown, so we're going to keep it there. And now we're going to use the cream. And I'm going to take a beauty blender. I'm going to take this top cream and I'm just going to pounce over it. Oh wow, okay, so it punched it up a lot. It brought a more baby pink tone to it. And it made it punchier, but beautiful. Very, very soft punchiness. It's not so opaque to the point where, you know, like last year's. I did not like last year's palette, as you can tell. That looks really nice. It's very soft. It does give a little bit of a sheen, but not too much. The powder is matte and the cream is very emollient, but it's not overtly to the point where you're looking at the skin and I'm just glowing everywhere. I don't look like that. It just gives a nice sheen. Now, let's get into the second blush. So I'm going to take a Rephr number 19 brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and go into the second golden peach shade. And I'm gonna tap off, a lot comes off. Oh, that's pretty. That's really pretty. These shades are definitely buildable. They can keep going. Like, you can keep building. But it's not going to, and as you keep building, it's not going to look like you caked on tons of blush. It's just, you know, like, it's the pigmentation, it's softer. It's a soft buildable coverage. So it looks soft in person. Now we're going to go into the cream. I'm going to take the other side of the beauty blender. Just going to dab in and dab on top. It's pretty. And again, it just gives, you can't see that little like pearlescent micro glitters. You can't see them. Very pretty. I think I like this color better than I like the pink one. I like the baby pink one too, it's pretty, but I just think it matches my complexion better. That's the peach. Can you see that soft sheen? But it's not too much. That's really nice. So here's the soft pink, and here's the golden peach. And now let's get into the highlighter. So we're gonna use a Wayne Goss number 16, and I'm going to take the powder, just this powder highlighter right here, and I'm just gonna put it up here. Okay. Right away I can see it's sticking to the cream of the blush, and it's very chunky highlighter, like super chunky. Like it looks, it's almost like it's giving my skin texture. Can you see that? It's literally like, let me try coming closer to you guys. It's literally like giving me texture that I don't have. Okay. Let's try it. Let's try putting the gloss on top. Let's see. Okay, the gloss softened it up. It softened it up, but it still looks chunky compared to this side of my face. which doesn't have anything. It's definitely not flattering at all. It's a no. No. Right now, I can tell you that. The highlighter formula is just not. No. Mm-mm. Well, we can even it out and put it on the other side of the face since, you know, we already did it. No, I don't like it, and I feel like if I keep like messing with it, it's gonna lift. It's gonna lift the makeup from underneath if I keep playing around too much. Like it just doesn't look good. Yeah, that's a no. Okay, so we have both sides. We have the pink, we have the peach, and the highlighter at the top. I am not a fan of the highlighter, for sure. So let's get into my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on this palette is I do like the palette. I think it's a beautiful palette compared to last year's volume 1. I do like that it is not as pigmented, but it's a softer, but you could still build it, right? It's a softer pigmentation, but it's buildable. So I do appreciate that. I like that a lot better because last year's palette was kind of unusable. I could only use the last shade, which was this one right here in the end. And she's magic. No, she's baked. Sorry, she's baked. That's the only shade that I could use of last year's palette. Otherwise, the other two were just kind of duds for me. This year, at least, I feel like I can use the two shades. The highlighter duo is a complete dud for me. So no to the highlighter duo, but these two shades are beautiful shades. They are better recreations of last year's shades. I could say that. So if you like a formula that it is emollient, the creams are emollient, they're glossy finish, but they are different from last year's formula. So last year's was a little thicker, is not as emollient, is not as soft. These are a little softer, have a little bit more glossy finish, have a little bit of a fine micro glitter. If you're not a fan of that, I would refrain from that, but you can always get this palette and just use the powders. You don't have to use the finishes, the gloss finishes, if you don't want to. You don't have to use the cream formula. You can always just stick to the powder, or vice versa. You can always just stick to the cream. You don't have to use both. If I were you and you liked any of these, or if you liked one of them, he usually does bring them out later in the year as singles. So I would wait and just get the single that you're interested in than buying this whole palette with a highlighter that has so much texture on there. Like, it just made me look so much worse. There was no reason for a highlighter like that. So no to the highlighter. Yes on the two blushes. I definitely am a fan of his formula, but I would not purchase this palette if I was not reviewing it. I would wait for the singles to come out and I would purchase the single that I liked better than, which is the coral shade. So that's my thoughts on this palette. Let me know if you're picking it up and if you're going to pick up any of the singles. And please do consider subscribing, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.